Hey, Vinny, thank you so much for inviting me to discuss smartShift today. I appreciate it. My name is Derek Oats. I'm the CEO of smartShift. I've been with the company for about 3.5 years, but I've been actually referring customers and partners to smartShift since 2013. So I'm relatively new to the company, but definitely not new to the value that customers receive and partners receive with regards to smartShift's impact on the S4 migration journey.
Well, Derek, thank you for joining me. I know we are neighbors, only a couple of hours away, but we always seem to meet over virtually. So one day we'll have to break that virtual style. But please, thank you for joining in. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, we can certainly do that. I'm in Orlando. Obviously, you're in the Tampa area, so there's no reason why we can't get together. Again, thanks for having me.
Sure.
So, smartShift, we are a company that's been around for a little over 20 years. Our claim to fame is we really are the only intelligent automation engine for SAP Custom Code specifically. We've got 14 patents over years and years of ABAP research and development. We've got a lot of customer transformation solutions that we've delivered, and we've delivered over 3 billion lines of code remediated specifically with transformation accuracy, going all the way back to Unicode conversions way back in the day. And now, obviously, with all of the S4 code transformation required as part of the move, we're expertly focused in that area. As I said, the biggest impact that we have with customers is really off the back of our intelligent automation system. It's kind of broken up into 4 specific areas. Everything starts with analysis for us. And of course, now with the push for customers looking to move from ECC to S4, we're keenly focused on S4 transformation from a code standpoint. What that really means, and we'll talk about it in detail in the next few slides, is we feed ECC code through our intelligent automation platform, and then out on the other side, it spits out clean code that's automated and efficient for S4 transformation. We also have a dual maintenance solution that's software driven, so that if customers have a 3 to 5...
Derek, on the point you just made, so you're converting code into code for S4, you're not converting that into parameters. This is not something S4 can offer out of the box. Correct?
No, it's specific custom code. So we take the custom code, feed it through our engine, and it spits out high quality working code for the S4 environment.
Okay.
Plain and simple. The other thing that one of the other areas where we focus is dual maintenance. So a lot of the customers obviously have long roadmaps to get fully to S4. And we're the only company that has the software capabilities to keep the existing ECC environment in sync with the S4 environment throughout the duration of the actual solution and the migration. So, if you go and ask all the development teams that are out there, one of the biggest pain points that they have throughout this transformation process is the dreaded freeze time, where they have to go back to the business and say, hey, I can't take any new requirements because we have all this work going. We eliminate that issue by keeping the systems automatically in sync via software, whereas the only other solution would be to go out and either put the additional workload on your development/ABAP teams or hire more ABAPers and developers to actually do the synchronization. And we do it all through software, which is a huge value to the customers.
Okay.
And then, of course, everybody's asking, what is Clean Core to me from a specific customer perspective? And we're doing a lot of work right now to help customers understand, A, what is Clean Core to them, and B, what is the low-hanging fruit for them, where based upon their customizations and the way that they've used the SAP application software, what makes sense from a low-hanging fruit perspective with regards to Clean Core and their journey and what the roadmap might look like. This is just an example of some of the customers that we've worked with. The interesting thing for us is we don't really have a specific vertical that we work on, because the truth is, if you are customizing your software, we don't care what vertical you're in. Our platform works across every industry solution, because to us, ABAP is ABAP. And so you can see there's a wide range of verticals and segments here, with big name customers, obviously from ExxonMobil to BP, across Airbus, different industries, Jabil, large customers, Nestle's a recent customer that we worked with that had over 180,000 custom objects in their environment, and we took care of all the code for that.
Well, what I like about this is you're not afraid to go after complex multinational settings, right?
Yeah.
A lot of other folks focus on lower end customers and so on. So it's good to
Yeah, and actually, Vinny, it's a great point. That's one of the reasons why, since 13, I've been referring customers and partners to smartShift, because the capability for us to take the most hairy, complex scenarios from an OBOP standpoint, regardless of the actual size of the custom code repository or the complexity of the actual OBOP, it doesn't matter to us. It really doesn't matter, and we play really well in those scenarios. And the other claim to fame that I have is, in my 11 years now of referring customers and partners to smartShift, I've not been involved in one single escalation. And that includes my time working on the partner side, my time working at SAP, and also 3.5 years of being the CEO of smartShift. I've never had an escalation because the software just works. So as I said initially, everything starts with analysis. So we essentially will do a scan of a system.
Before, maybe you'll answer this, but let me just, while it occurs to me. The testing of what you deliver and testing in general in a ECC to S4 migration, are you helping customers with that automation, or is that other tools they use?
Yeah, so we are specific to the code. So we flip back to the customer and to the partner clean code that is S4 ready. We don't do any testing per se on our own, but because of the high quality of code that we run through and receive from our platform, there's definitely less testing required. There's less errors. The testing is still.
I was trying to see your value. It sounds like the value is in the conversion of code, not in the testing phase of the project.
Exactly. We work with other testing providers from an automation perspective, and we fit inside the SI or the customer testing schedule. But the reality is, because of what we're able to do with the code from driving higher quality through automation, certainly there would be an impact to the ease of testing and the number of errors that are caught from a testing perspective. That's the best way to say it. So obviously we're delivering complete OBOP repository analysis. As I mentioned, way back in the day, we really focused a lot on Unicode, but we're covering everything from stability, security, usage, and then optimizing, obviously, through our intelligent platform of the number of rules that are AI driven. We're essentially driving this through this engine that then spits out the clean code that has all of these aspects taken into consideration. One of the things that we notice with a lot of customers, because unfortunately for years, there have been maybe a lack of best practice approach taken to when you customize or how you customize. Oftentimes we'll see 40 to 45% decommission right out of the gate for a lot of these customers that aren't using a lot of the custom code that they've had done on their system. Why this matters, obviously, because we talked about this a little bit, it de-risks the entire code angle of the migration, right? So essentially, you know that you're getting clean code through the engine, out of the engine, and then uploaded to the target system, which is the S4 transformation system. But also, you know, right up front when we do our analysis, you know the changes for S4 that are required, and you can plan accordingly with confidence because you've gone through with us the analysis from a code perspective. And then, of course, it ensures the versions are in sync between environments, as we talked about with the dual maintenance solution. And as I said, everything starts with analysis for us. And then we know straight up front exactly what it's going to take. We're doing upwards of 90 to 95% of the code cleanup and the code transformation specifically with automation. So there's very little manual work that needs to be done because we're leveraging the software. This is the transformation, talks about some of the things that we've already mentioned. But again, one of the biggest things, obviously, is knowing what you can decommission that's not being used, making sure the versions are aligned. And again, really what this does, in the biggest bang for the buck for the customer and the partner, is it condenses the time frame for the customers around the custom code component, because we're leveraging software as opposed to leveraging and leading with manual resources. The quality is through the roof. We've won numerous awards with SAP directly, where we've taken the most complex environments, and the low amount of issues that we've actually come up with after it's gone through our engine is very, very small. And anytime you insert automation via software and robots, you're going to have higher quality than leading with manual
Absolutely.
resources that are stretched thin.
Absolutely. Derek, I love the word decommission. Any estimate of how much, in the customers you've worked with, how much they end up decommissioning previous customizations?
Yeah, as I said, on average, it's typically like up to 40 to 45%.
Wow.
And that's a huge thing, right? Like, I don't know if you saw, Vinny, in the last couple of weeks, there was a big article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about technical debt.
Yeah.
It talked about the biggest issue and how much money, I think it was like $1.3 trillion of issue with technical debt. If you do the math and realize that even 40 to 45% is of the technical debt from an SAP system perspective is code that's no longer being used, it's a huge issue with ignoring this, right? Like even customers that are looking at moving to S4, and we have customers that come to us and say, hey, we've already made the move to S4, but we didn't do anything with the code. We now realize we made a big mistake because we basically moved over a bunch of junk that should not have been moved. Can you please help us exactly understand what could be decommissioned, what should be decommissioned? And then also, we're just still doing development on the S4 system. Can you help us stay out of the ditch? Because we know that we're going to still continue to have customization requirements, but if we don't change the approach that we had before, we're eventually going to end up back in the same mess that we were, even if we clean it up. So the technical debt concept is one that's getting a lot of spotlight, and I believe rightfully so, because the technical debt can really drive up the total cost of ownership for a lot of business owners, for a lot of these massive SAP enterprise customers. It's interesting for sure. We talked a little bit about the dual maintenance, and this is something that shouldn't be overlooked either, right? Because again, in this world where customers and managers are being asked to do more with less from a resource standpoint, it really shines a spotlight on things that you can automate. And I talk to CIOs all the time. And one of the discussions that we always have is around automation. And it's interesting. I always say, if you're a CIO that doesn't have an automation strategy, you're likely not going to be a CIO much longer, because there's such a huge spotlight on the value of doing more with less from a resource standpoint. And it shines that spotlight directly on what can you do with software and automation instead of approaching with manual resources. So to that, we're really looking at the gains and benefits that customers and partners can have by automatically using software that syncs up the environments. If you're not doing that, you're really overlooking some low-hanging fruit that can really help you drive down your total cost of ownership and also take a lot of pressure off of your limited resources that we know many SAP customers have and many SAP partners have.
Especially in the big companies you mentioned, their S4 migrations are 4, 5, 6 years, right? So dual maintenance is an absolute reality.
It is. And I think it's interesting. We often have discussions with customers that think, that they need to do daily retrofits. And some of them, we believe it's slightly overkill, but certainly weekly, bi-weekly, monthly retrofits between their ECC environment and their new environment moving forward. That is certainly something that is recommended. And as I said initially, I can't tell you over the last 20 years how many development managers I've said to me, this freeze period is going to kill me, because there's nothing worse for a development manager or anybody that owns the development track from an executive perspective than getting the call from a business with anger saying, we really need this functionality. And then the worst thing is if the development manager says that they can't do it because of the freeze. So there's a lot of pain there, and a lot of momentum that's stopped from a business perspective because of this pain. And the dual maintenance solution from a software perspective definitely addresses this. Clean core, all kinds of questions around clean core. What does it mean to us? We've spent the last 18 months, 2 years now, really investing in our clean core capability from an analysis perspective. As I mentioned to you, from an S4 transformation perspective, we're upwards of 90 to 95% of automating the full solution to send the code back and upload the clean code. It all started with analysis for us in that state, going all the way back to the Unicode, right? So right now, what we're doing is we're really ramping up our clean core analysis capability, and we're actually now delivering this solution to many customers where we've already helped them with S4 transformation, and they've already seen the value of the S4 transformation and the dual maintenance solution. The natural progression for the customer, piggybacked on all the messaging from SAP around clean core, is, hey, smartShift, based upon your expert analysis of how we used our code, based upon the success we've had with you, smartShift, as a vendor with S4 transformation and dual maintenance, can you please help us understand what does clean core mean for us? Can you help us understand, some of the things around the way we've used the code in the past, where some of the low-hanging fruit is from a clean core perspective for our specific company based upon our own architecture. And that's where we've been building up our capabilities over the last 2 years, which is now where we're being pulled from a lot of customers that have seen the value from our lane 1 and lane 2 to help them determine what clean core means to them. And so it's an interesting thing, because I would say at this point, I just had a conversation with an executive that basically said to me, I don't even know what clean core is to us. Can you help us figure that out? And the truth is clean core is different for each customer based upon their business requirements.
It is.
And so,
I've told SAP this. I've said, look, in the 90s, when I was at Gartner, ERP was 60-70% of the enterprise definition, right? Now it is so much smaller because people have put so many surround cloud applications around it, right? So the definition of the core has changed quite a bit
yeah, for sure. And so, we see the future here, and we have a number of beta customers and a number of customers that are now coming to us for the analysis. And as I said, when we first started in our bread and butter, our automation rates were lower. And so now we're starting to find the low-hanging fruit from an analysis perspective, and then build up the automation around the clean core stuff as well, right? Because again, at the end of the day, you have to start somewhere, and it always starts with analysis. And then you see some commonality among different scans that you do of different systems, and then start to target low-hanging fruit of automation capabilities that will make an impact across many different customers because of a couple of patterns that you see on the clean core analysis side. So it's interesting, and it matters obviously because it really allows customers to feel like they're starting to lay the groundwork to actually modernize their actual code, which is obviously critical when you're looking at different architectures and figuring out when and where and how to turn on the cloud meter where it makes sense. And it's important when you go through those types of decisions from an executive perspective that you understand the real impact of looking at automation and understanding what you have to figure out where you need to go with some type of reference architecture. Here's a couple of customers that we've worked with. I showed the big slide with all of the logos, but one of the things that I think you've kind of hit upon is, in larger environments that, we play very well. It's absolutely true. So with BMW, we're responsible for their 80 system landscape. We've already delivered over 60 different solutions, remediated over 100,000 custom objects, and obviously cut into the technical debt that they have. We're plugged into the BMW RISE journey as well. So they've been a longtime customer for us with a very complex environment. Very happy, certainly referenceable, talks on our behalf. And it's just been a great story for us. Another one is Jabil, actually in your backyard, Vinny.
Yep.
Another one where we helped them really condense the code stream specifically with a couple of their systems integrator partners. They had over 46,000 custom objects. We were doing daily retrofit, I believe, or weekly retrofit with them from a dual maintenance perspective. And it really helped them consolidate the timeline and deliver higher quality. And it's been a great relationship with them. And now we're looking at some things from a clean core perspective with them as well. Another one out in Colorado is JBS. They've done case studies with us. They've talked on our behalf. There's a couple of videos out there that talk about the number of man hours that we actually saved by leveraging the automation engine. And they had a multi-wave ECC to S4 rollout. They had over 42,000 custom objects. They also did a selective data carve out as well, which is interesting. So they took some of the elements from a data perspective over with them as part of their migration. We took care of the custom code. We worked very closely with the selective data partner. And then, of course, we're doing the automated dual maintenance with the retrofit with JBS as well. And that's a really good one. I know there's multiple videos out there that talk a little bit more in detail from the customer perspective, which is always valuable. And then Procter and Gamble, they're one of the most complex environments from an SAP perspective in the world, and we've worked with them for a long, long time. They've got over 200,000 objects in their repository, and they simply could not have done the transformation without an automated led approach. We also did a bunch and are doing a bunch of consolidations with them. They have multiple templates that they're using from a functional perspective, and we partner very strategically with them to help build in more solution capability from a smartShift perspective around dual maintenance and of course the application modernization. I think the one thing that's interesting to note, as I kind of touched upon earlier, is we like to get the customers clean and out of the ditch, but we want to keep them there with the continuous modernization approach. And what I mean by that is just because you get to S4, it doesn't mean that all of the business requirements for customizations are really going to ever go away. Now, is there certain things that customers should do to help them understand what's possible and what the capabilities are from a standard configuration perspective as opposed to customizing? Absolutely, there's no question. But in order to believe that all the customization would eventually go away entirely, then you'd have to have nothing but extreme confidence that every standard configuration would apply to every single customer from now until the cows come home. And the truth is that's never going to be the case. There will be many customers that can certainly get clean, get out of the ditch, but they're going to continue to have scenarios where they have to customize.
What's your business model with each one of them? Because these are obviously multi-year relationships. Do you build it on a project basis? Is it an ongoing subscription?
So we're pretty flexible. We have customers that we have subscriptions with that use us for all of their solution work because they have so many and because their environments are so big and because the requirements keep coming. But we also have customers where we will deliver specific solutions. Everything that we do from a pricing perspective is based upon the size of the repository on the transformation side. And then the dual maintenance component is basically priced on the intervals required. Like how often do you need to retrofit? So it really does span the full gamut. But we have a lot of customers that we do have a lot of subscriptions with just because of the vast amount of work that they have always ongoing. And again, it's the continuous modernization piece, which we talked about.
And if somebody wanted you to just do the one-time clean core analysis, that would be a project basis, I presume.
That's also we've got a specific pricing model for that based upon the number of custom objects. That's kind of how we look at it. Okay. I will tell you, smartShift is not in the business of building our business off of analysis. We deliver solutions. Sure. So we have discussions with customers. We use our analysis a lot, really to kind of qualify the opportunity with the customer and figure out where they are in their journey. We're not looking to stack up analysis revenue. We're looking to help customers transform. And so, yeah, that's kind of how we look at it. This is just a quote from Procter and Gamble talking about, we were able to deliver the solution with virtually no errors. And the defect rate was something very important to a company like Procter and Gamble because of how large they are. And they had to reduce the amount of human effort and focus and touch as possible. Like if this was a non-negotiable for them. And so we actually won the internal partner award at Procter & Gamble in 2022, which is definitely a very prestigious award. And as I said, we've won numerous quality awards with SAP directly because of our ability to handle large volumes of custom code and deliver happy success and happy outcomes for the customer. That's the other thing I should mention is we don't do change requests. Our software is a guaranteed solution that's SLA backed. And that's because when we go through and we do the analysis up front and we do the scan of the code base, we know right out of the gate approximately very close how much is going to be automated and what the delta will be. When I mentioned up to 90 to 95% on the automation rates for S4, there's a small component that still needs some manual intervention. But we're able to deliver that guaranteed outcome because we're very, very confident in our ability to deliver the outcome via software and automation. And that's also why we're able to deliver such high quality. So this is just an explanation of kind of what we were able to do with Procter & Gamble.
Derek, I don't know if you're going to talk about how do you deal with SIs? Because you are automating something they would like to do manually, right? So
yeah, Yeah, so it's interesting. It's a great question, Vinny. So, I've been in this space around the migration piece for a long time, since 2013. And so things have changed quite a bit over the years where, especially right now, where there's so much pressure on the customers, but also the SIs to do more with less from a resource standpoint. Um, the SIs were starting to build really, really strong relationships with many of them that realize they simply don't have enough manual resources to take on the custom code work stream. We're working really well with many of them that have realized that they have to automate where they can. And the good news is there's strength in numbers, right? So there's other automation companies that we partner really well with across testing, across data migration, that across business process, that the SIs are kind of bundling together and leading with automation first. But there's, a lot of these SIs are very large companies, and just because you have champions in certain pockets doesn't mean that you have champions across the board. It's part of our job as an automation company to help keep the pressure, and help do enablement for partners and SIs to understand the value of what smartShift and other automation providers can provide to them. And so we're getting a lot of traction. We're getting a lot of success. Our partnership channel is exploding. Our numbers are exploding through the partners. It's starting to really turn. And I think the more and more, the notion of whatever timeline is that's out there, or deadline, if you will, from SAP to get the customers moved to 2027, the more and more of that momentum continues to build, the more and more spotlight will shine on value of automation and customers and partners as well. Because where the partners love us is we're able to take a pretty complex work stream off of the table and guarantee that solution for the customer. And we're able to help the partner then potentially allocate some of those manual resources to higher margin deliverables and higher innovation deliverable for the actual customer. And the partners are starting to see that we have that impact. And they're also starting to see smartShift in the circle of advisory with the customers directly. So where a partner might say, hey, can smartShift take care of the transformation of the code and the dual maintenance? Also, smartShift, can you help us with the customer explain our clean core approach and methodology, because they obviously trust a company like smartShift because you've handled the other lanes so well. We're starting to partner strategically with the SIs to help them drive those more innovative discussions on the clean core side of the house as well.
Yeah, I've been screaming. I came from the Pricewaterhouse world. I've been screaming at them for 20 years, automate more. And they were always just shake their head, right? It's good to
Yeah.
They started, keep the pressure on though, because
Yeah, I mean, look,
I go back to their hand-to-hand combat model.
Yeah, and as I said, look, I've been in this for a long time, specific to migration. I spent some time working very closely and at S&P, who's a data migration partner. I'm always pushing automation everywhere, not just from a smartShift code perspective. I've been pushing testing automation, right? We're having great discussions with Tricentis. Like everywhere you can automate, it's in my opinion, if I were on the other side of the fence and I am the customer and I'm looking at having to deliver more with less, and I'm looking at driving quality, and I'm looking at trying to save from spending on certain manual approach things, I'm squarely focused on the partners that have automation capabilities. That's the way that I look at it. It's most efficient, it's higher quality, it's less risk, it's all those things. And I've done some things recently where I've been a little bit, my marketing guys say I'm a little too bold sometimes, but I flat out tell customers, if you're leveraging automation, and not just smartShift automation, but automation wherever you can, you're flat out doing it wrong. You're taking chances that you shouldn't be taking. You're taking chances that you don't have to take. You need to really dig in a little. And if it's a little uncomfortable for a lot of these customers, because they've been taking the lead from a lot of SIs that have built these kingdoms with manual approach. I understand all that. But at the end of the day, if there's a more efficient way that all that it requires is for you to get a little bit outside of your normal thinking, it's at least worth investigating, because the value that customers and partners can see from automation is enormous.
Well, keep the pressure on.
Oh, I'm going to challenge you. You help me do that, Vinny.
I will. I haven't been that successful for 20 years. Let's see if it'll change. So yeah, that's really what I had to talk about today. I appreciate the opportunity. Absolutely. This is great to see, and I like the fact that you're working with the data side, the testing side, our partners anyways. When I look at an implementation, it's actually such a simple concept. Every project has configuration, every project has integration, every project has unit testing, regression testing, etc. These are well defined. They've been done for thousands of projects. Now we just have to automate that as much as possible. So I'm,
Absolutely.
code has always been a tricky one. So I'm glad you're handling one of the more complex areas.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So one of the things that I say this all the time, I don't know why the code stream was ever separated from the data stream. It never made any sense to me because like I get it, like to try and simplify, but at the end of the day, it's so code and data are so intimately connected through all of the software development lifecycle. It didn't ever make any sense. And I'm going back 20 plus years when I first learned about the SDLC, going back to the basics, right? Like I completely agree with you. This is not rocket science, right? When you look at every single solution that's delivered, there's a blueprint, there's a realization, there's testing, there's go live. Like that stuff hasn't changed forever. And so separating the components of it's not the most cost effective way. And certainly separating the components while not including automation, it's just the wrong way to go in my mind. And so, as I said, I've been involved with smartShift for 11 years now, but I feel, and this is where I take it somewhat personal, I'm more a steward of what's best for the customer because the customer always wins. And in my mind, nobody's ever been able to convince me that automation is not best. And I stand by that. And so, the more spotlight we can shine on automation and tying the solutions together and making it easier for the customer, that's where my mind's at always.
We are brothers in arms. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah. Thank you so much.